Hey, what's up, guys? It's Bakes here, and thank you for joining me for another one of my random horror reviews. Today's movie is one that I was super excited to give a rewatch to because, to be quite honest, it's a movie that I do really enjoy, but it's just been a reasonable amount of time since I last checked it out, so I was super keen to get around to this one again. One that is fairly popular, even though I feel like over the past couple of years, the noise around it and everything has died down, which tends to happen. But for a long time it seemed that this was going to be one that everyone was just constantly always going to be talking about. But if you want to get specific, it's kind of like this home invasion slasher in a way. Today's movie is titled You're Next from the year 2011, directed by Adam Wingard, who is a director that I really like. And it's crazy to look at his directing credits from where they were to where they are now. Like early on, he was doing segments in the VHS franchise. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he did a couple of segments in the ABCs of Death as well. He was doing obviously movies as well pretty early on. Like this is one of his earlier movies, if I remember correctly. But if you look at his like more modern discography, to what he's been, directing now. He's like done Godzilla versus Kong and, some really well backed and budgeted movies. So it's crazy to see, as I said, where he was to where he is now. But he's a cool director. I fuck with him for sure. But like I said, this is his movie from 2011 titled You're Next. Before we get into my thoughts of You're Next, let's quickly run through the plot for this one for those who haven't seen it or maybe just need a refresher. Almost choked there on my own saliva, but either way, the plot for this one. So our main character, she is played by Shani Vincent. I'm definitely going to highlight her when we get into my thoughts of this one, but she is coming to meet her boyfriend's family for the first time, and the family is this rich, very well-off, snobby in a way family for children. So her boyfriend has three siblings. They bring their partners and then the parents, and I'm pretty sure they're meeting, if I remember correctly, at like the family vacation house or something. Anyway, it's like this big, nice house. As I said, the family are pretty well off. They have a lot of money. It's quite obvious. Some of them are pretty snobby, but overall, when they get together, they're not really seeing eye to eye. They're ruffling each other's feathers. The family's not all on the same page, but they're trying to get together for this occasion. Anyway, as the night goes on, the house starts to get approached by this group of people wearing animal masks. I'm pretty sure it's like 3 or 4 people, all carrying weapons, and they're trying to find their way inside and pick off the family one by one. And then as the story goes, more comes into development, and there's a few twists and turns and whatever. So it's not as black and white as just home invasion and go. So it is an interesting film. As I said, I was excited to check out this one again. So without delaying any longer, let's get into my thoughts of You're Next from the year 2011. So I'm going to start off by talking about Shani Vincent, since I brought her up in the intro there. She is incredible in this movie. She does such a great job as our lead in this film. She reps Australia really well, a very talented Australian actress. I do feel like it's been a very long time since I've seen her in anything else, though. I'm not sure if she's getting much roles. Like once upon a time, it just felt like she was going to go into the next stratosphere of whether it was staying in the horror genre or busting out into different genres. It just felt like we were going to see a lot more of her. And like I said, recently I feel like I haven't really seen her in much. Like I'm trying to think out of the horror genre. The only thing I can think of that I've seen her in just off the top of my head is what is it? Those dance one of the Step Up movies she's in. But getting back to the horror genre, she was in that movie Willow Street, From a House on Willow Street. I have that film in my collection, and I fucking forget what it's called though. She was in that movie. She was also in that killer shark film Bait, and she did a really good job in that one as well. And speaking of Bait and actors that I thought were going to go to the next level, another actor who was in the movie Bait alongside Shani Vincent was Xavier Samuels. He was another actor where Australian as well. I was very convinced he was going to go to the next level. He was in The Loved Ones. He played the main character in that. As I said, Bait as well. I'm sure I'm blanking on a lot of things, but there's two very talented Australians, an actor and an actress, I thought were going to go on to probably do bigger things, and maybe I'm blanking on some like real obvious ones there, but a little tangent there, two actors I wanted to highlight here. But She really is incredible in this movie, and this was probably the mark where you went, okay, like, she is going to go on to do some really crazy things within the genre or out the genre, whatever it might be. I'll tell you who she looks like in this movie. She kind of looks like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, specifically probably like from Death Proof, not the costume, but like just her face and her hair. I'm like, that really does look like Mary Elizabeth Winstead there. One thing I also really like about her character is that she keeps the Australian accent, and it is very noticeable in this movie, but she doesn't play into it. Like, she's not playing a stereotype of an Australian, she just has a casual Australian accent, like most girls from Australia, which, if you're unfamiliar, that's where I'm from. Like, this is what they sound like. Like, she's not playing into a stereotype or playing into a character. Like, she's just speaking with her voice, and I don't know, I found it to be very comforting. Like I said, it stood out a lot, specifically because in this movie, like I said, a lot of the other characters are very proper and posh, while also being American. So when you have these very properly spoken American characters, and then just Aussie Sheila speaking in her normal Aussie accent, like, it is actually, it stood out a lot more than what it normally would. Normally when there's an Aussie accent and it's being pointed out, I don't find it to be very distracting or distinct. And I'm not saying that it was negative here, but it was something that I really noticed more than what I usually would. And I don't know, I really liked it. I actually thought it was pretty funny. Like, there's moments in this movie where characters are like, her accent is very jarring and stuff, and I'm like, fuck, like, for the first time, like, I normally, as I said, don't normally notice these things, but I'm like, fuck, it actually kind of is. But she is a badass in this movie. Just her acting, and then the way she plays into this character and how the character develops as the story goes, like, definitely one of the highlights of this movie for sure. Great female lead. And one thing I also noticed, and you wouldn't have noticed this, 10 years ago, but a little bit of a predecessor to another modern horror icon, I guess you could say, that I'll get around to later. I know I just said that I'd get into it a little bit later, but I just thought, fuck it, I might as well get into it now. Her character in this movie feels like a predecessor to, I forget the character's name, but the lead from the movie Ready or Not, played by Samara Weaving, who also happens to be another Australian actress. So I'm really fucking throwing out a lot of Australians here that I'm giving praise to and pats on the back. But not only is she kind of a predecessor to the lead from Ready or Not, but there's actually a lot of similarities between this movie and Ready or Not. First of all, both of them are this cat and mouse style movie where you've got leads running around trying to one-up people who are trying to find them and pick them off. It's got that similarity. Both of them have dysfunctional, rich, upper-class families. Ready or Not definitely plays further into the comedy side of things, but this movie actually does have some very dark humor in it. As I said, it's not as on the nose, it's a little bit more subtle than Ready or Not, but the vibes are there. Again, a very similar setting, because again, it's we're dealing with wealthy families here. Storyline wise, we have a member of the family coming in to meet the rest. You've got Shani Vincent's character in this one, and you've got Samara Weaving's one in Ready or Not. So there's a lot of beats here that are actually very similar to Ready or Not. But getting into the characters specifically, as I said, both of them played by Australian actresses, and both of them incredible work as the leads in their respected films. I feel like over, Ready or Not being out for a little while now, and Your Next has been out, as I said, since 2011, Samara Weaving's character, I feel like, has become more iconic. I think you could sort of put that down to that film probably being more successful in a way. It was definitely seen by more people, getting a wider audience and whatever. The iconic outfit, the wedding dress with the sneakers and bloodstains, and the ammo strapped around her. So I think you got to give points to Samara Weaving's character there for iconicness, but I feel like Samara Weaving's character in this movie walked, so Shani Vincent's character in this movie walked, so Samara Weaving's character could run, if that's the best way to word it. Getting into the villains in this movie, because I think they are really cool. I can't remember how much I described about them in the intro, if I even did at all, but it is, I think it's four, but it could be three. It's like three or four masked men, all wearing different animal masks. Like there's a wolf, tiger, sheep, something else. I'm pretty sure it's four if I remember correctly. They're just wearing these hoodies and like jeans, combat boots, and they've all got different weapons trying to get in the house. I really do think like it's a cool lineup here, and even though they're like badass villains with cool costumes and masks, they also stay very realistic and grounded, and they don't do anything above human capabilities. And what I mean by that is like, you know, we've seen plenty of other horror movies where the villain is a human. Like if we bring up Ghostface, for example, in some of the later Scream sequels, Ghostface goes through some shit where I'm like, they would be like at least knocked out or down for the count, you know, something like that. But in this movie, you know, they stay fairly grounded. Yes, they look bowler and they do some badass things at times. Like there's a part in this movie where they're trying to get into the house, but they have nothing to break through a window, so they use one of the victims' corpses as like a barricade, I guess, and like knock out the window. And I'm like, that's fucking cool. As I said, their aesthetic is like clean but like grungy at the same time. I really like it. But you know, when they get hurt, they scream in pain. They feel the effects of when, you know, they're attacked and people try and fight back. And I don't know, I just really liked the realistic nature of these villains, which I also think adds to the scariness, because like anyone can slap on a mask and do what they do in this movie. Like anything that they do in this movie can literally be done, and it just feels real. Maybe they have more skills with like crossbows and shit like that, for example, but you know, everything that they do is like humanly possible, which I think adds to the coolness and scariness of these villains. So that was something I really liked. Like I brought up before, there is dark humor in this movie. I'd almost describe it as like dry dark humor, because as I said, it's not quite on the nose as a movie like Ready or Not, like I compared it to, but there is some funny shit in here, like Shani Vincent's character, I keep forgetting her name, I think it's like Erin or something, but her partner went outside at a certain point in this movie, and he's been gone for ages, so his brother says to Erin, I hope that's her name in the movie, else I'm just saying Erin for the sake of it, but the brother says to Erin, he's like, oh, Crispin will be safe, like he's a tough guy, and she just like shakes her head, and she's like, well, no, he's not, but thanks for trying to be nice and comfort me. Like she's so badass in this movie, like she's not even worried, she's like, he's not tough, I'm eventually gonna have to save him. Like there's even a part where she's fighting off the attackers, the villains, and the rest of the family scramble, and she eventually catches up to them, and she's like, oh yeah, and by the way, thanks for the help. And it's like just so dry, but it works because one, it's funny, but then two, like she's so badass that it doesn't feel corny or anything, you know, it just fits her character and fits that mold. What else? The score in this movie is mostly solid. There were a few moments where the score choice was a little bit odd. It felt almost like fantastical or whimsical, but they were very niche specific moments. Like majority of the score was great, really good at building tense moments, and even moments with some nice like retro synth in there, which I thought was really cool. Like I hinted at in the introduction, there are some twists and turns in this movie. Without spoiling, I won't go too far into it. There are some twists and turns, and like I said, I have seen this movie before, but I haven't given it a rewatch in the longest time, so even though I knew the gist of where the twists were going, it wasn't exactly how I remembered it, so it was still refreshing to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I do remember it playing out like that instead of specifically like this. I wasn't too far off, but that was nice, and going into this one was actually the first time I ever watched the movie from the start, thinking about how the twist goes, as in like knowing, as I said, the gist of how it went, and watching it from that perspective, knowing, you know, what I eventually know by the time the movie's over, which I'd never done before, but I thought was cool. You know what, we might as well wrap up this review now. This has been a little bit more of a chill review for me, as in it's very late at night, like extremely late. I just was like, I might as well record something. I watched this movie not too long ago, so let's slap together a review. My score for You're Next. This was a fun revisit. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Enjoyable movie. I think it's a really fun cat and mouse home invasion. Like, I don't know, if you're a fan of movies like Ready or Not, or even another good one to compare this to is like The Collector in a way. Both of them got like that cat and mouse element here. Some good kills. Again, the gore is, I feel like, exactly what this movie needs, where it's like not ridiculously over the top, where it just feels like a gore fest, or it takes you like so far into a different territory. But you get to see some like pretty gnarly stuff as well, with some good effects. So yeah. I guess that's all I'm going to say for this one. As I said, 8 out of 10 for You're Next. Let me know your thoughts on this movie if you've checked it out. And thank you for joining me again for this random horror review. Like I said, it is very late at night right now. I don't even know what the time is. I can't even read it from here. But it is extremely late. You can probably tell from the way I'm talking. I was running out of breath just doing this review. I'm ready to fucking hit my head on a pillow and call it a night. But thank you for joining me again, guys. Like I said, if you've seen this movie, let me know your thoughts of You're Next in the comments below, and I'll see you for another video soon enough. See you guys.